Welcome to today's CX Quick Tips. Man, I have a special session today. We actually have two of our awesome contributors with us, Chip Bell and Dan Gingiss. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, great to see you today, Jim.
Now, I'll tell you, we had a great discussion. We laughed at my face already hurts, so hopefully you'll be part of this as well.
Get ready, everybody. This is going to be wild.
Absolutely, because we're going to look at how this is kind of like self-reflection time, right? How can you tell that you are actually a dangerous customer experience leader? So what that means is a lot of times we have to stop and pause and to say, I hadn't really been focusing on that, and I might be dangerous, because we're not talking about dangerous as being as exciting and you're going to kill your competition and engage all your people and your customers. We're talking about dangerous meaning that, I got a risk here, right? So Dan, we're actually piggybacking off an article that you had written that I pulled off of your blog. To me, while it seems like common wisdom, oftentimes it isn't. And then also you have a new book coming out. So if you could start us with this discussion on how could you potentially, reveal to yourself that you might be dangerous on your customer experience?
Sure. One of the things that we talk about a lot in CX is the voice of the customer, except it is so rare that we actually hear that literal voice. So we read reports and we see numbers and we calculate NPS scores and things like that. But when is the last time that you actually heard the real voice of your customer? And if you haven't in a long time, you are definitely dangerous, because your customer, when they talk to you and really have a conversation with you, are going to tell you so much about what you're doing right and you should be doing more of, and what you're not doing right and you should stop doing immediately. One of the things that we did when I was at Discover Card for 10 years, it was required every director and above had to go to a monthly call listening session. And every month we listened to calls from a different part of the business. Now, these calls could not be cherry picked. They had to be random calls. And after we all listened to them in a group, we looked at two things. The first was, what could the agent have done better? What kind of coaching would we give to the agent? And then the second, probably more important question was, why did this person have to call us? And what broke that required that phone call? And then we start to talk about how we can improve that on the back end. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was when you hear the emotion in your customer's voice, the frustration, the disappointment, the anger, the sadness, whatever it is, it hits you. It hits you like right here. And you're like, I got to do something about this now. And that does not come out in any sort of report or any sort of metric. You got to hear the actual voice.
And that's most definitely true. And I think for me, if you want to sell a project internally, or if you want to sell, and spark change management, just let your executives listen to a few of those calls. They'll take care of it.
Exactly.
Chip, I know you always have a great story.
Piggyback on Dan's point is, I was working with a client that did surveys, and they asked people to sign them if they would. I mean, obviously they'd like to know who they were, but they never did anything about it. And they got surveys, or somebody told some extremely difficult story, bad, this happened, this awful, and it was a terrible story. And they did get a chance to follow up live with that individual. And turned out the event they were talking about was 20 years old, but they were still angry about it. And I think about, they were about to make some changes based on that one report. And you go, well, number one, you don't want to make a change based on a single report. But second, you sure this is really the truth and current information? And so through the conversation with the customer, learning it was 20 years old, they go, well, maybe we need to rethink our decision. But I think another, since we're talking about what do you know that what makes you feel like you're being dangerous is you're losing the wrong customers. Now, sometimes we say we don't want to lose anybody, but I think you do. I think sometimes if you're losing customers that aren't a part of your primary target market, that's a big sign to me that you must be doing something wrong. And so trying to understand, who is my target market, what matters most to them, and am I making sure those that are most important in terms of the value proposition I want to make to the marketplace, am I taking care of them? And when you lose the wrong customers, that could be a big signal.
And you bring up an interesting point, Chip, because a lot of times if I'm an agent, or if I'm a customer service person and I'm interacting with them, I don't know who that person is. I mean, there's the old folks tale, they talk about the farmer looking guy who walked into, the car dealership, and he was all rattered and tattered, and they didn't give him no pay attention. And he went over to the competing dealership and they responded to him right away. And that guy turned around and bought a fleet of 30 vehicles.
That's right. That's right.
You never know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't judge a book by the cover.
Now, Dan, you also talked about something, yes, listening to the voice of the customer, but I think you also talked about, really gaining insight about your organization. And for some, that's a huge issue. And if you don't know that, how dangerous can you be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had the good fortune of working for a few really big companies, Discover, Humana, McDonald's, and these companies are in lots of different businesses. They have lots of different things going on. And I always thought it was really, really critical that I understood enough to be dangerous about the whole company and that my team did as well. And one of the things that I did with my team that I thought was super helpful and I got great feedback on is we would listen to the quarterly earnings calls together. We would get a conference room, we'd sit down and listen. I happen to follow the stock market quite a bit and I'm an amateur investor, so I can listen to these earnings calls and know what's going on. A lot of people on the team had no idea what they were talking about. And so it became very educational for them. And what I would always say is, be on the lookout for what our CEO is going to talk about, because that's going to give us a really good hint for what's important to him or her. And then also be on the lookout for what do the analysts ask, because that's what's really important out to the street and to the marketplace. And if we go through the whole thing and we don't hear a single thing around anything we're doing, we gotta end the call and start figuring out why that is, right? Because you wanted your projects to be talked about on those calls. But most importantly is it got my team and I to the point where if I'm at a cocktail party and somebody says, hey, I hear Discover does student loans. Well, I'm not in the student loan department, so I don't really know a lot about it. But I knew enough to be able to say, yes, we do. And maybe here's 30 seconds of information that I know about it. And here's somebody I can refer you to. And that's so critical because when Chip talks about losing the wrong customers, in order to lose them, you got to bring them in the first place, right? And the number of times that we gained customers at Discover because I was on stage talking about how great the company was. It was amazing how many times people came up to me afterwards and saying, I never thought about getting a Discover card, but now I'm going to go apply. And this doesn't just happen for speakers and authors. It happens for all employees when they're out at parties or they're talking to their friends. You want them to be good ambassadors for your company. And to do that, they have to be knowledgeable.
Most definitely.
I'll build on that. And that is, I think everybody in the you're dangerous when everybody in the organization doesn't have a line of sight to the customer. We have an expression, every single person in the organization has some sort of direct line to that customer. We have an expression at my house when we buy a new product. I wish that the CEO would open this damn thing. And how many times you get a product and you go, I can't get it open. I mean, who invented this? Well, who invented it was some well-meaning individual that had no line of sight. They were focusing solely on the product, not on the user. And they created something that the customers would go, when I try to open this pepper, the whole thing falls in my soup. And then it shows up and they discover it when they look at all the reviews, but it's too late then. You've already damaged your brand. So I think finding a way for every individual, no matter their role in the organization, to have some way of saying, let's understand our customer, how they're going to use our product or service, what matters to them.
It's so funny you say that, Chip, because I actually think that starts even at the marketing and advertising. So I'm a big Chicago Cubs fan. I listen to Cubs games on the radio a lot. I'm driving, whatever it is. And the radio commercials, which of course it's the same commercials every single game, are so annoying and so horrible. And I always imagine this group of executives around a conference room table saying like, oh yeah, that's a really funny one. We should go with that. And yet they've never shared it with a single potential customer who thinks it's the least funny ad they've ever heard.
Yeah.
So even in marketing, I think it's so important that there's line of sight into the actual either customer or prospect. And certainly once they've got the product in their hands, yeah, we've all had those situations of trying to open a package or trying to use the package or just trying to read the instructions.
Yeah. I think everybody that watches the news before 7 a.m. is sick. They got something wrong with them because you look at the ads and you go, man, they what kind of conclusion do they make about the target market that's watching the news before 7 a.m.? They're all old and sick.
Gentlemen, before I give everybody an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, I want to wrap this and point out that You can be dangerous when you don't know enough about your company, as well as if you don't know enough about your team members as well. It applies inside and outside. And that's what's going to make a difference for you to be a more valuable customer experience leader. Chip, thanks for joining us. How
My pleasure.
can CX Quick Tip listeners get in touch with you? And I think you also have a recent book that you're
Yeah,
gonna bring out.
absolutely. Chipbell.com. And my new book is Inside Your Customer's Imagination, which is just exactly what we've been talking about.
Dan, please share with us.
You can get me at dangingiss.com. It's Gingiss. And my new book coming out in September is The Experience Maker, How to Create Remarkable Experiences That Your Customers Can't Wait to Share. It is available for pre-order now on your favorite book ordering website.
And of course, Chip and Dan are both contributors to CX Global Media. And we thank you for watching and sharing this so that you can help others be more valuable customer experience leaders. You all have a great one. Take care.